Hello everybody, this is Eric Marks here again with FindingMiddle-earth.com, and today I'm so honored and excited to be featured on the Art of the Image YouTube channel and artoftheimage.com. Now, if there are any of my fans out there watching and you've never seen Matt's videos for Art of the Image, go and check those out right now. He's got tons of stuff on there, mirrorless versus DSLR, and this camera versus this camera, and which one is better for video and photo. He's got tons of stuff on there. It's all great information, so go and check him out. So I'm here today to tell you all about theme park photography. It's kind of a random genre of photography, but it's something really near and dear to my heart, something I love doing. So let's get into that video and talk about theme park photography. All right, so how did I get into theme park photography? Why do I love it so much? So I guess it started out with me loving theme parks in general. So when I was much younger than I am now, I used to live in Cocoa Beach, Florida with my grandparents. And for as long as I can remember, my grandfather has always worked for Disney World. And so because of that and because of his position there, we always got to go for free. And so when you're a kid and you get to go to Disney World for free, as you can imagine, you go a lot because you love Mickey Mouse and the animated characters and the whole Disney experience. So we went all the time as a kid. Now I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and me and my wife still love going to Disney World whenever we can. So we typically go 2 or 3 times a year. I know it's kind of excessive because it's like an 8-hour drive, but we love it. We even had our honeymoon there. So, but long story short, every time I'm there, I love taking photos in Disney World and also Universal Studios. There's a lot of theme parks that I love taking photos of. So I'm going to try to keep this very open instead of just centered toward Disney World, because all these tips that I'm about to give you work for any theme park. And all these tips that I'm going to give you are not centered towards professional photographers at all. So if you're an amateur, if you're a beginner, if you just bought a camera and you're going to a theme park next week, hang around and I hope these tips are going to help out. So I wrote some notes down on my phone here so I can keep everything organized. So, when you're planning a trip and you're going to a theme park, whatever theme park of your choice, the biggest thing, and I put this as number one, is research. And again, this is whether you're bringing 5 cameras and 50 lenses and all this stuff, or if you're just bringing a little point and shoot. Research is going to help you get better photos, no matter what kind of camera or no matter what kind of photographer you are, because research is going to help you know where to shoot, what time to shoot, where the sun's going to be setting, all of those things. So for this example, I'm going to use Disney World as my example because that's just the theme park that I go to most often. So before I go to Disney World, and by the way, in Disney and Universal and all these other theme parks, things change all the time, right? If 6 months goes by or if a year goes by, these places love to keep innovating and changing shows around and changing locations and breaking this down and reconstructing it. So things are always changing. So it's not like you can just remember where something is and be assured that it'll be the same thing in the same time, your next trip. So I always research and figure out, hey, if I liked taking photos of this specific show or at this place at this time, or the fireworks show or anything, is it still the same time, right? Is it still the same day, the same time, the same place in the park? So research, do your proper research, look at other people's photos online to get inspired and see maybe, I highly discourage, copying other people's photos because you always want to keep things unique. So, when you look at other people's photos, maybe you'll say, oh, well, that looks cool, but, what if I stood over there and it looked even cooler? So I use other people's photos to just kind of get inspired and get an idea of the location if it's somewhere that I, don't go often or if it's somewhere that I've never been. So do your research. Just hop on the internet, Google some stuff, go to that theme park's website, go to you can probably find a ton of photos of the theme park on Flickr and just see what looks cool there. It helps a lot, so that way you can be somewhat prepared before you go. So number 2, I have number 2 as scout out your locations when you get there. So I'm going to use this as an example. So typically whenever my wife and I go, we're there for anywhere from 3 days or a whole week. And so I know there's some people that are really hard pressed to have time to get photos of a park. Most people aren't going to have time, if they're going on a family vacation to a theme park, they're not going to have time to spend a whole day dedicated to their photos. So you kind of have to do it as you go, or you maybe you don't have time to do all these things and prep and get to a place right when the sun is setting or whatever. So scout out, right? So if you're there the first day and your family says, well, today we're going, like my wife keeps an entire itinerary, like she plans out our trips minute by minute. So it's awesome because our trips are so organized, but it also makes it tough sometimes for photography because she's like, at 8:30 in the morning, eat breakfast, 8:31, swallow, 8:32, get on the bus, so it's like the whole day's planned out. So if you have family or wives like that, then, you have to, what I always do is I use like the first day we're there to just kind of scout. So I leave my camera in the room. I don't even bother with it. I just take my phone, which, by the way, most smartphones now, probably all of them have cameras. If I'm sure you have a smartphone, use this as your scouting tool. So if you're walking around with your family and you say, oh, wow, I really think I should come back later and shoot from there. Well, open your camera up, take a quick photo for reference. Now this is roughly what you want your shot to look like. It doesn't have to be a 5-star image on your phone. You're just using this for reference for later. So, because, obviously every single time at some point when you go to a theme park, you're going to ask your family or your wife, hey, is it cool if we, come back and do that later when we're free or when we're not on our way to a ride or whatever. And, I'm sure they're going to be perfectly fine with you taking a few minutes to go take a photo somewhere. So, especially with my wife being a planner, she's always like, okay, so it looks like day 3 you'll have time for photos. So I'll say, okay, well, if that looks like it's going to be a break in our schedule, then I'll use the first 2 days with my phone to just go snap, snap, snap. I want to take a photo of that, and I'll literally just keep references on this phone. So then when day 3 comes, I open up my phone and I go, okay, right, I want to go there and there and there. So that way it's very quick for me as well, and it keeps your trip moving. And by the way, this is, I hope this is going to help because this is something very normal for most family vacations. I highly doubt any of you take family vacations, bring your whole family along just so you can go get cool photos. So keep that in mind. Use your phone to scout out, take reference shots. That way, when you have free time, you can go get those shots in a pretty quick manner. So that would be scouting, and that's saved me a million times. Number 3. If you're not scouting, or even after you've already scouted your location, ask the theme park staff, right? Ask different employees, go up to them, and they would be more than happy to tell you where some cool places are in the park that you might not know. So there's been a ton of times where I've just said, hey, it's been, a year since I've been here. Is there anything cool or new that I should check out? I'm a photographer. I love taking cool photos. What do you recommend? And, they'll tell you, hey, oh, yeah, we just opened up something over here in this park. So, if you get there in the next 2 hours, they're going to have this cool light show or something, and then that'll help you because otherwise you might not have known. So ask theme park staff. And then also, this is kind of my thing, and I also put this as number 3 as well, is look where all the other photographers are not shooting, okay? That's kind of a weird thing to say, but look where everyone is not taking photos. I always like to do that because, when you walk into a theme park, they normally have some historic piece of architecture that defines the theme park, like Universal has the big, globe, and Disney has the castle and all these other things. And everyone, millions of people are in front of those things taking photos all the time. And then, everyone's going to have the same photo, essentially. So I always like to say, okay, well, let's see, if there's 1,000 people taking photos over there, I'm going to walk over there and see if I can get kind of a different perspective and angle. And I think that's probably one of the most useful tips I can give you in this video, because that's what's going to set you apart and maybe get someone to, notice you online and say, well, I've never seen a shot like that of this theme park before. It's very different than anything I've ever seen, because most people just stand front and center, take a shot, and then they go home. So, look to see, the empty spots, right? If all these tons of crowds are over here, don't try to fight through the crowds, because then you're just going to be mixed in with all this sea of people, and everyone's essentially going to have the same kind of photo. So look for, the places where people aren't shooting and see if you can make something cool out of it. Okay, so number 4. So this is going to be a huge one as well. Tripod. Okay, it's real simple. If you're going to shoot in a theme park, most of my theme park photos are at night. You pretty much have to have a tripod to keep your camera stable. So this is kind of a complicated thing, and I'll tell you why. So When most people, theme park employees, theme park security, whatever, whenever they see someone with a camera, whether it's an $800 camera or an $8,000 camera, they just think, oh yeah, it's a theme park, they're on a vacation, so they're bringing their camera, right? Looks perfectly normal. Well, for some reason, the second that people see a tripod, they think, oh, professional photographer. He's got to be the professional. And so and the only reason I mention this is because it's never happened to me, but I've heard of a million different instances where theme parks will not let you bring tripods into their parks. Don't ask me why, because I have no clue why this is, especially since I don't have one of the kind with spiky feet. I always keep the little rubber tips on so that they can't, think it's like some weapon or something. And so, yeah, so for some reason, the second that a tripod is involved, they think, oh, professional photographer, he's trying to come in here and take images of the theme park and sell them and without property releases and make money off of us illegally. And I don't know, they think all these kind of crazy things, and they've given me a million different answers before as to why they won't let other people bring tripods in. But I always get mine in because, and this is going to seem like a very simple tip, but I promise you it'll be very helpful. Get a smaller tripod. So if you are a photographer like me who shoots all the time, you probably do have some kind of big, hefty, heavy tripod. I bought this little, it's a MePhoto Globetrotter. And this thing is not really small, so it's really good, really steady. It's carbon fiber, really sturdy as well. It's built well, but it can fold up to be really tiny. And so whenever they're this small, they're not as harmful looking. And so you also get all these color options with the MePhoto one. You get the regular black and green and blue and orange and all these. So I chose a color because it also makes it look less harmful. So these are all kind of psychological tips that I'm giving, but it's true. Like the difference between a black or green tripod could be the difference between you getting this into the park and a security guard flagging you down. So I just kind of try to make it look like a toy, right? I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I picked this thing up at like a Walmart or something, so I thought it'd be cool to bring in the park. And they'll ask me too. They'll say, well, what is this? And I'll say, oh, it's just a tripod. I picked it up on the way, and I thought I'd use it for a couple photos. I don't at all allude to the fact that I'm trying to get beautiful photos to make these big prints and stuff. Just try to stay under the radar as much as you can. So also, second tip for the tripod is keep your legs completely retracted if you can, because that still it makes your tripod seem smaller. So make your tripod as small as it will go, and that will probably allow you to get this into any theme park. So that's a big thing with a tripod. So now on to why you need the tripod. Whenever you're shooting at night, like I most often do, which, by the way, that typically is the best time to shoot it at theme parks, is at nighttime near closing, because you don't get as many people in the park and it's kind of easier to shoot. Your camera, right, it starts producing really slow shutter speeds that you cannot hold with your hand. It'll make your photos really blurry. So set up your tripod and lock it to the head, and your shots are going to be as sharp as can be, because you're going to have the sturdy legs here and you don't have to have your handshake involved. So this is a huge thing. Try to bring a tripod if you can. You can get very inexpensive ones. This one was a few $100s. You can get them for like $100. Just make sure it's a small travel looking tripod so that you don't get flagged down by security. That's something I would highly recommend. Okay, let's look at the next tip here. And I'm trying to go as quick as possible, but I really wanted to, I love theme park photography, so I want to help you guys as much as I can. So number 5 here on my list is, if you can, try to choose the best time of day and certain parts of the theme park to shoot. So what I mean by that is, typically just in general, generally sunset and sunrise are the best times to shoot, but not always. So going back to what I just said about why you need a tripod, because I shoot at night all the time. Well, typically theme parks have these really cool lights at night, right? Everything is very well lit and very cool, and the whole park kind of glows. So even though sunset would make some really cool shots at certain theme parks, nighttime might be the best time to shoot. So don't just think just because the sun is pretty at sunset, don't think that just means that, it applies to everything, that it makes everything prettier, because some places like city skylines at night can be beautiful. If you're in Paris, shooting the Eiffel Tower, you can get phenomenal shots at sunset, sunrise, and at night, right? I mean, you got all those lights glowing up. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. It's not always just sunset, sunrise. So try to choose the best time of day as best you can based on when the theme park is most beautiful, right? If there's not a lot of lights, then sure, maybe sunset or sunrise is the best time to shoot it. Okay, so number 6, don't break rules. This is a big one. There are so many people that I see with cameras trying to get like the best shot by climbing on things that have a big sign that says "Do not climb," or hanging themselves off the rail of a ride or something. Don't do that, because the second you do that, and you have this big camera and a tripod and or whatever else, that's going to immediately flag you down, and you could even get asked to leave the park, or you could have your camera pretty much confiscated for the day and kept in like the customer service desk or something, and you have to go pick it up. You don't want that. So don't break any rules to get a shot. It's a huge thing as well, because that will just draw more attention to you, and then you might not be able to have your camera at all for the rest of the trip. Or worse, you might be banned from the park or don't break any rules. Follow the rules. Get cool shots as best you can, but don't climb on anything that says shouldn't be climbed on or anything else. So number 7, bring a small day bag and make sure it's comfortable. So there's, you don't have to do this. This is just for me. So I use this little Tenba bag. It's a Tenba Switch 10, and I don't ever use it unless I'm in a theme park because it's so small, but it's perfect for that. It's very comfortable. It's got a nice padded shoulder strap, and it holds like one DSLR and a lens, and then like my cell phone and some sunscreen and stuff. It's great to have a little day bag whenever you're going to a theme park and you have your camera stuff plus the regular stuff that you bring. Like I said, like sunscreen, your cell phone, your car keys. By the time you add all those things up with the camera equipment and the regular stuff, if you're packing your pockets full, your pants will be falling down with stuff, and you'll be uncomfortable. So take a comfortable small bag to keep your stuff in. Yes, sometimes you do have to go through bag check at the theme parks, so that can be a little annoying. But I promise you'll be much more comfortable for the rest of the day in the park if you just take a little bag that carries your camera and stuff when you're not shooting. Especially if you're on a ride or like a water ride, you want to keep it nice and secure just in case. If your camera's not weather sealed or anything and it gets wet, just keep it in the bag. And by the way, this Tenba Switch 10 bag has a little rain cover in here, so I can actually pop this off and put it over the bag, and it protects it from the rain. Especially if you're in Florida going to theme parks, it rains like every day there for like 2 hours, so you'll need that. So anyway, a day bag, and make sure it's comfortable. Obviously, since you're typically walking around theme parks all day, that's something that has helped a lot for me. And then number 8 is wait for the crowds to clear out and then start shooting long exposures. So what that really means is that probably the most asked question that I get about my theme park photography is how in the world do I make it look like there's nobody in these theme parks? Because people know that there's thousands of people there all the time. Excuse me. So and there's no secret, okay? There really is no secret. How I do it, how I make it look like there's nobody in the park, 9 times out of 10, there's just nobody in the park. So I just wait. I wait and wait and wait until closing has come, and then there's always going to be those last people that stay past close. That's me. That's fine. Guilty as charged, but I'm not breaking any rules, because the second someone asks me to leave, I leave, but I stay. As long as I possibly can, I stay. So if the park closes at 10 o'clock, I might stay in there till 10:30. Sometimes I've stayed in there like an hour and a half past close. It just kind of depends on what theme park. So here's my biggest piece of advice there, okay? Wait, be patient. Wait until, as many people have left as possible. And if you see an employee of the theme park start approaching you when you're about to start shooting, biggest piece of advice that has saved me so many times is, number 1, be as nice as you possibly can, like nicer than you've ever been in your life, and make sure you speak to them before they speak to you. So here's like the best example, right? Let's say I'm like 45 minutes past close in a theme park. There's finally everyone's left. I'm about to start shooting, but there's an employee approaching me, probably about to ask me to leave, right? Well, first thing I do is I say, hey, how are you doing? I completely, cut off the employee if they're about to ask me something. I make sure I have the first word. So I say, hey, how are you? And what are they going to say after that, right? They're an employee. So they're 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, they're going to say, great, how are you? Well, when they say that, that opens up the perfect opportunity for you to say, oh, I'm doing wonderful. I'm just enjoying myself. I'm about to grab a couple of photos and then head home. Well, just by you saying that one sentence, just probably got you out of that person saying, can you please leave? Because then they're going to say, oh, okay, well, that sounds good, and then they'll just walk off. Or else, okay, well, as soon as you take the photos, please, escort, we'll escort you to the front, or else we'll, let you out or whatever. So just make sure you have the first words, because if that person would have had the first words with me and said, excuse me, sir, we're closing, can you please leave? It's going to be much harder for me to say, oh, well, can't I just take a couple of photos first? They'll probably say, no, we closed 45 minutes ago, we're sorry. So I always try to stay very aware. If someone's approaching me, I'll make sure I always make the first move, right? Hey, how are you doing? Great, how are you? Oh, great, I'm just going to take a couple shots and then go home. Boom. You just seal the deal and got yourself maybe 15 more minutes to take a shot and play around with your camera when no one's there. So I hope that answered that question, because so many people ask me that, and there's no secret, myth to it. There's really just typically nobody there when I shoot. The other way that I can make it appear like there's nobody there, and I don't do this all the time, but like I said, 9 times out of 10 when I shoot, there's really is just nobody in the park. But the other way to do it, if you don't have that luxury to wait around, is I use a filter on my lens. So I use a 9-stop, it's a Hoya ND400. It's a 9-stop neutral density filter on my camera. And basically what it is like putting 9 pairs of sunglasses on over your camera's lens. It just makes everything much darker. And so what that provides is a really long exposure, especially when you're talking about nighttime. So if I ever put this on at night, it takes my exposure time on my camera to 15 minutes. And I'm not sure, there's probably different levels of photographers watching this, but essentially what that means is the camera shutter opens for 15 minutes and takes a photo for 15 minutes and any person that walks through is essentially just going to be a big motion blur and going to be, for the most part, transparent or invisible, and you'll never even know there were people there. So if there's a lot of walking people and you're taking a 15-minute photo or even a 10-minute or something like that, they're just going to appear the shot is going to appear as if there were no one there. So that is one little trick, and these are less than $100 to get a 9-stop neutral density filter. So that's the other way that I do it if I absolutely have to. But try to wait for closing time if you can, because it is obviously best to just shoot with nobody there. That's the best thing ever. Okay, so I think I just have one more tip here in closing. Let's see. Nope, that was the last tip right there. Good. So I hope that helped everyone. I love shooting theme parks. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's a big challenge, but I've gotten some really great shots out of waiting out crowds and getting in weird positions and trying to always shoot where other people aren't shooting. You just never know. Just always keep shooting, and always hope you take those tips with you and use them in your own photography. And thank you all so much for watching. And I'd like to thank Matt again with Art of the Image for having me on the show and on the channel. And you guys all have a wonderful day and a Merry Christmas. Take care. Bye.